Hello, friends. So good to be with you today. Time for you to pull up a cup of coffee. We're going to enjoy ourselves for just a couple of moments. I want to say how much I appreciate you being with me for just this couple of moments. I'm going to be talking about some things that I think are very important for your life. I'm going to talk about patterns, the patterns that are established in your life, those patterns that kind of make you what you are. And you know, I've touched base on several of these things before, but I think it's really important for you to realize that this is one of the building blocks that's brought you to where you are. I mean, your patterns of behavior, your routines, guys, listen to me. They are so important for your life. They really are. Like routines, the life patterns that you put in control of your circumstances. If I have a business, I build that business within the framework of my routines. And if I don't have a routine, well, just anything can happen, and it ends up being, I'm all over the place. How can I at all predict what's in my future if my routines and habits are all over the place? I can't say, because the fact is I get up at a certain time in the morning. You do everything the same. Men, when they shave, they'll start shaving on the same spot on their face every morning. When people go to work, they'll go to work the same pattern, the same route every time that they go. Things that you do, you have patterns more than you realize. You have financial patterns. You have things that you've done. Now, there may be some things that you know to do better, but I'm not talking about the exception. I'm talking about the things that you do on a regular basis. This brought you where you are. Your relationship with your mate. Quite honestly, people have said, things have just fallen apart between me and my mate. And I want to say, well, you got to understand that something, you didn't start out like that. I have watched so many people get married, and they'll stand there and they'll look at each other in the face and they'll say, I love you, and without fail, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you until death only parts us. They'll make statements like that. And then 6 months later, they're getting a divorce. You're thinking, what the heck happened? Well, the fact is they started out with this, but they ended up here. The road they took brought them to failure. Now, the road they took was probably already set in motion. The habits that they have, the patterns that they've accepted for themselves. You don't just go from there to there without something making that happen. You have a life pattern, the way you do things, the way you handle people, the way you have arguments. I've always felt like arguments, they all need to have an on-ramp, but they also need to have an off-ramp. There needs to be some place where you can unhook from that disagreement for a few moments. The fact is a lot of people, they don't have that. They've got patterns that are very destructive in their life, and it's like it just mounts one thing on top of another, on top of another. Your pattern in life, your routine has basically taken your life in a direction. It's put you in control of your circumstances, and you have to understand that there are consequences to the actions that you have. So I want to just talk to you for a moment about the patterns. What do you do? How do you handle your job relationships? How do you handle the relationships with people maybe that you disagree with, your family? What happens to you when something is lost? What takes place actually in you? Because I'm just telling you something. Everything that you do takes you someplace. It does not leave you where you are. See, life is never random. I know sometimes we think it is, and I'm sure that there's probably some things that have just hit us that we were totally not expecting. But that is the exception. That's not the rule. Life is never random. Otherwise, there's no design that's attached to that. The fact is that you are fearfully and that you're wonderfully made. And that says that there is a design about you that makes you entirely unique. So when you get away from who you are and the design that God made you to be, and you start developing only self-destructive habits, well, you find yourself losing your way in life. And so I wanted to just have just a moment to tell you that something has produced success in your life. And that's the patterns, the habits that you've developed. But something has also produced failure in your life. And that is the habits and the patterns. You can't blame me, you can't blame the government, you can't blame anything. You are the pilot in control of your ship. You're the one. As a matter of fact, you're going to, at the end of your days, you're going to stand in judgment for everything that you've done in this body. Well, if you didn't have any responsibility over it, why would you stand in judgment for it? But the fact is, you've got habits right now that's making what you are. If you have money, you've done something to retain that money. If you're broke, there's something that you've done, especially if you have a good job. There's something that you've done. Well, I just can't see what it is. I don't care. Something, the money didn't disappear. It didn't happen. If you've got a successful company, there's something you're doing. If you've got a failure for a company, you need to find out what you're doing. Like most businesses and most churches, most people, what they're doing makes so much sense, they don't even look to see if it's working anymore. But see, the problem that you face in your life is the pattern that you embrace. It's the truth. You've got a pattern that has established something in your life, and you can't confess your way out of that thing. I'm telling you, you were created to function in patterns and behaviors, and determination can't overpower bad decisions. The decisions you've made, they're the very things that's established the life that you're living right now. So that's kind of the thing I want to just share with you for a couple of moments, because the problem that you're facing right now is in the pattern of your life, your behavior in things. That's a situation with weight. I'll tell you what, I've struggled, maybe not like a lot of others have, but everybody has struggled in areas with their weight. You have ideal weight. You have times when, I'm getting to where I can't get in my clothes anymore. Well, that's a sign. Life leaves you signs. Did you know that? And many times we ignore those signs until we get so out of control. But until you see that the pattern that God placed in your life, then everything is just random. I mean, and you will never solve a problem until you identify, and fix the pattern that has produced the problem. As a matter of fact, I'm even going to say this to you. I can predict your problems by looking at your patterns. I can. I can look at what you're doing, and I can tell you this is where you're going. And if it hasn't produced this already, it will. And I'm going to just tell you, a lot of people said, well, pray for me. Yeah, God doesn't fix problems. What he does is he fixes patterns. He reveals to you what's brought you to that way. That's why sometimes it's so progressive. You're going along and you're asking God for help. Well, something brought you to that point. So what he does is he works on you many times in the area of your behavior. He'll try to deal with you in those areas. But you got to understand something, that if you don't want the product, you're going to have to change the pattern. You can't just pray that away. You can't just close your eyes and hope that it goes away. It's not going to do it. I mean, people, they spend their whole life playing whack-a-mole. What do they call that? Whack-a-mole with their problems. Well, I just want to say that if you don't want the problem, you're going to have to change the pattern. If you don't want the problem, you're going to have to change the problem, the pattern. And I'm telling you, I'm just trying to think of how I can better put that. Let's say, for instance, how can I apply this? If people aren't grateful, they have a pattern of entitlement. Well, I'm always discouraged. Is there a pattern to that? Is there a pattern to that? Your problem is the pattern. You don't have a money problem. You have a spending and compulsive pattern. You don't have marriage problems. You have a selfish pattern of lifestyle. You don't have a weight problem. Well, I don't even need to go there, do I? I mean, sometimes that's just difficult for me to even say anything about that. But it's true. It's true. The things that's brought us to where we are at this point is not the problems themselves. It's the patterns that produce those problems in our life. So your job today, and this is the thing that I want to challenge you, is look at your life and say, is this what I want? Is this the thing that I've worked for? Is this the thing that I've got an education for? I mean, some of you have gone through incredible amounts of money getting an education, getting a business going, getting a whatever. Look at your life right now. Is it producing what you want? If it's not producing what you want, look at the pattern. I go back to golf if I can use that. How many of my people that I played golf with over the years, how many times have I ever heard the statement as because the ball is just going off into left field or right field or just all over the place? And how many of them said, well, I just need to get some new clubs. And I want to say, baby, it ain't the clubs. I'm telling you, it's not the clubs. I'm not saying that good clubs won't help you, but the problem is in the pattern. The problem is in the way you're swinging. The problem is in the way you're approaching the ball. I mean, but that's what a life lesson for that. You have a problem. You don't like the way things are going. You're going to have to look at what you're doing. You got to do it. I'm just telling you. You know, if I want to lose weight, I'm going to have to change my diet. If I want to retain some money, I'm going to have to purge out my senseless, compulsive spending. I mean, if I want more friends, I'm going to have to be friendly. Well, even the Bible says that. To a man that wants friends, he's got to show himself friendly. In other words, he's going to have to develop another pattern that doesn't abort the thing that he wants most. So what's your pattern? What's your pattern? What is it about your life that isn't what it's supposed to be? Now, I know that I'm not talking about overanalyzing every little thing, because we've all got things in our lives that we would like to be different. That's not what I'm talking about. If you got some things in your life that you know, this is out of order, this is not the way it's supposed to be, this is not right. My question to you is, what brought you to that point? What made that happen? I mean, you just seriously have to think about that. What made that happen in your life? What is it that you've done that has produced this results? And if you can be, I've always said we've got to be lovingly honest with others, but we got to be brutally honest with ourselves. We're just going to have to stop and think about this. I have these problems. Well, what brought you to that place? See, we got what's the joke that the guy said? I broke my arm in 3 places, and they said, well, quit going back to those places. But that's the truth, isn't it? I mean, the fact is, if you were hurt here, here, and here, don't go back there. That's a pattern. Well, I'm just going back anyway. Really? I'm just, I never cease to be amazed at the gullibility of people who so desperately want to bring order to their life, and they will try everything in the world apart from looking at the patterns that they're going through. So that's up to you right now. So I just want to leave that with you right now. What is it about your life that needs to be changed? Maybe you need to write that down. Maybe you need to sit down. Maybe you need to go talk to a counselor. I know I give too many analogies about golf, but I've never seen a game that ever exposed so much of my life to me. You can't always see what you're doing. When I'm playing golf, I Sometimes I can't tell what I'm doing. It's amazing. You would think it's not that difficult because you've just got a position at the top of your swing, a position at the bottom, and a follow through. And you would think, well, that shouldn't be that difficult. But it happens literally in just a second. And sometimes you're doing things and you honestly do not realize you're doing it. And what you have to do sometimes is have someone step back and say, "This is what you're doing." People have told me that, and I'm thinking, no, that's not. I can't believe I'm doing that. But yeah, this is what you're doing. Wow, man, you're doing this big time. Wow. Okay. So you need to sometimes go to somebody and say, "Would you just look at my finances? Would you talk to me about my marriage? Would you talk to me about my relationships? Would you be someone?" See, you should always have someone that speaks into your life. Actually, I look at relationships on 3 levels. You need to always have someone over you and someone under you. If you only have people over you, you'll become insecure. If you only have people under you, you'll become arrogant. See, you need to always be where you are. You're dealing with stuff, but I also have someone over me that looks at my life. And then I have someone under me that I'm looking at their life. And it's just a healthy pattern for you. And be open and be transparent. And don't be afraid for someone to say, "Boy, you really stink at that." You've got to trust someone enough that they can legitimately say something ugly to you without you getting mad and running off. You got to take that or you'll never grow. If you can't take constructive criticism, you'll never grow. You'll never change. So important. Not destructive criticism. Destructive criticism being, "I just don't like you and nothing you can do about it." But constructive criticism. The way you said that is wrong. There's been times on social media we'd be looking at things that people have written and their grammar is wrong. And we've all done things, and especially when you've got something like on your phone that self-corrects for you. And then, boy, I tell you, it can make you say something. You better look at it before you post it. But there's a lot of just simple things that people say. I remember hearing a term like, "I could care less." Well, that's not really the way it's said. What it says is "I couldn't care less." But the fact is we're lazy in the things we say things. And so I've seen people say things and put things on social media like that just made them look less smart than I knew that they were. But there's been times we thought, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to say anything to them because I don't want to insult them. I don't want to hurt their feelings." But the fact is, anytime someone that they are your friend, if they will tell you you have toilet paper on the bottom of your foot, and keep yourself open to constructive criticism because they'll help you shape the patterns that brings your life to the next level. And without it, in 10 years, you could come back and visit your life and you haven't moved 1 inch forward. So it takes work. It takes determination. But I believe that you can change the patterns. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you taking a couple of moments of your time. I just wanted to have an opportunity to speak this into your heart. Please push like, push share, push subscribe. I would deeply, deeply appreciate that.